I'm not a gamer, but that doesn't keep me from having strongly held opinions about video games. And one of those opinions is this: video games should be easy.
Hey everyone, Roadbreach here, and today we're responding to another video by Steve Shives. I've already responded to his video on Hogwarts Legacy when that game was making the rounds, and I think some of my points aren't as strong as they could have been. Namely saying that J.K. Rowling said stuff, which could also be argued for people like Richard Spencer, but I digress. Steve recently made a video titled, "Video Games Should Be Easy," which is funny when you remember that he said that he wasn't much of a gamer in his Hogwarts Legacy video, but now he wants to speak as an authority on the matter. So without further ado, let's do this.
There are people in the world who play video games on the highest level of difficulty, and I do not understand this. I'm not a gamer, but that doesn't keep me from having strongly held opinions about video games, and one of those opinions is this: video games should be easy.
I know we're not even a minute in, but I already have some good arguments for what's been said here. People play video games on the highest difficulty setting because they either played the game on a lower difficulty and want a challenge, or because they're just really good at games from the get-go. It's personal preference, much like how you prefer to play games on easy. Also, trying to speak on a matter that you have little experience with is a stupid thing to do. That would be like me trying to argue with a doctor about what a new drug should have in it.
Almost every video game I've ever played, because I'm not a gamer, but I have played a video game or two in my time, and almost every video game I've ever played has had a difficulty setting. I don't even remember the last time I played a video game on anything other than the easiest setting. Why are those other difficulty settings even there?
Because people who play games more than you want a higher level of skill requirement. That would be like me asking why different genres exist. It's because that's what people prefer.
Everyone's different. I realize that. Tastes vary. So I can't truthfully say that people who want difficult video games are wrong. All I can say is, I don't get it. I've had it explained to me. I understand it on an intellectual level, but I don't get it.
So you had it explained to you, but you still don't get it. I'm starting to think making this video was a bad idea because we're barely into this video. Maybe if you actually listened, you might understand why.
Once I asked a friend of mine who plays a lot of video games what they get out of playing games that are hard to beat, and they told me, I like the challenge. And I said, oh, I get that. You're way too invested in video games.
I wouldn't blame him if he cut off the friendship right there, because you sound like you're no fun at parties. If you can't respect people's personal preferences, why the hell should people want to associate with you?
You play video games on a higher level of difficulty because you like the challenge. You know what I do when I feel like a challenge? I lead my life. I'm not telling you my life is exceptionally challenging, by the way. It's not. I'm just a massive wuss.
I mean, you block people for dissenting opinions, so that's not much of a surprise there.
Some things in life are unavoidably hard. There's nothing you can do to make them easier. You just have to endure the best you can. But if there is a way to make something easier, I'd like it to be as easy as possible, please. Especially if the something in question is something as frivolous as a video game.
I mean, if that's what you prefer, then that's fine, but dictating what people prefer is not a good way to get people on your side. Yeah, this meme exists for a reason.
Before all you righteously indignant gamers come at me, accusing me of shitting on video games as a medium, that's not what I'm doing. I understand why you might be upset. If you thought that's what I was doing, you love an art form that isn't widely respected or taken seriously. Hey, I'm a pro wrestling fan, okay? I get it.
Indignant? Coming from the guy who blocks people for dissenting opinions. Besides, what stops me from brushing off pro wrestling as frivolous? Both of these things are entertainment that we consume when we have downtime, but video games get continually thrown under the bus because of X, Y, and Z. Both pro wrestling and video games both need care and attention to get right, whether it be to make sure that no one dies or gets horribly injured, or that the end product isn't a broken, unfinished, and unfun mess. So it really does seem as though you're shedding on video games, so I'd say we're justified in being indignant.
I know that video games can be a medium for serious, intelligent, emotionally involving, socially relevant, and thematically rich storytelling. I'm not arguing otherwise. All I'm saying is, if I play your video game with the beautifully written story on the highest difficulty setting, I'm probably not gonna make it to your impeccably crafted and deeply resonant ending.
But what if the difficulty is tied into the themes of the stories like Dark Souls, oppressive circumstances, and a weak character trying to make it out alive? The game's difficulty makes the story's themes stronger. If that's not the type of game you want to play, that's completely fine. There's plenty of other games to play. But don't dictate how the game should be just because you refuse to get better at it.
If a story is intellectually or emotionally challenging, I can do that. I'm all about that. But if it's technically challenging, fuck that shit. Who wants to watch a movie where you can't get to the next scene unless you're able to push the right buttons in the right order fast enough? A lot of people, apparently, but have I mentioned yet that I don't get it?
Yes, you have. Several times, in fact.
Earlier, I said that even though I'm not a gamer, I have played a video game or two in my time. In recent years, most of the games I've played have been mobile games, and I have two of them currently downloaded on my phone. One is a game called Flow Free, which is a puzzle game where you connect the same color dots on a board. The other is a collection of solitaire games, which I use mostly to play free cell. Know what these two games have in common? They're both easy as shit.
Not if I want to stay awake playing shit like that.
Occasionally there will be a flow-free board that takes me 2 or 3 tries to solve, but that's about as tough as it gets. I have yet to play a free cell game on anything other than easy mode, and guess what? I've never lost.
I have a question, Steve. What makes winning fun? Challenge. Because winning isn't fun without the possibility of losing. That's what makes winning desirable.
I have a perfect record on my free cell game. I'm not bragging. Bragging about how good I am at a video game would be a very silly thing to do, even if I didn't make winning the game as easy as possible.
I'm not bragging, but I'm very clearly going to brag about never losing a free cell game.
I'm just saying, being able to win the game is one of the main reasons I enjoy playing the game. Remember like 20 years ago when Sudoku puzzles suddenly got really popular here in the US? When my local paper started printing a daily Sudoku in the puzzle section, I tried it out. I was interested. I've always been pretty good at crossword puzzles, and it's a similar premise, only with numbers. I haven't attempted a Sudoku in, let's see, I guess it would be about 20 years. Know why? Because I suck at them.
And what's stopping you from getting good at them? The thing that stops me from wanting to get good at them is the fact that I don't like Sudoku. I don't find it fun.
Okay, let me tell you something about me. There's another video game that I play every now and then, Doom 2. Classic first-person shooter, right? When I was a kid and it first came out, I played it all the time. I loved it. These days, Doom 2 is one of the games you can find in the Internet Archive's arcade section. And sometimes, if I find myself with some free time and I want to just have some mindless fun, I load Doom 2, turn down the game's music and sound effects, and put on some music of my own, and I play Doom 2 right there in my web browser and have a great time for however long it takes until I get bored with it, usually between half an hour and an hour. Not only do I play Doom 2 on the easiest skill level, I believe that would be the I'm too young to die setting, I load that fucker up with cheat codes. And now that I mention it, that's another thing about video games I don't get. Why are there cheat codes? Why do you need to know the secret handshake to activate certain options? Why isn't this stuff just checkboxes in the settings menu?
Maybe because developers want to make a challenge for the player to overcome? If you remove any and all chance of you being able to lose, then you completely defeat the purpose of a video game. Cheat codes were what developers used to test games without needing to beat them. And as you said, you play Doom 2 until you get bored of it. Don't you think that might have something to do with the fact that you have cheat codes enabled? Just something to think about.
God mode? Yes, please. Check. Infinite ammo? Don't mind if I do. Check. Sometimes, if I don't feel like Doom 2, I'll play Wolfenstein 3D instead, which is also available to stream on Internet Archive. Makes for a nice change of pace. Maybe I don't feel like killing demons. Maybe I feel like killing Nazis. Same deal as Doom, though. I make it as easy to play as possible. The easier it is, the more fun it is. How does it make any sense to make killing Nazis more difficult? When I play Doom or Wolfenstein, I don't want to be challenged. I want to roam through an increasingly hellish landscape and blow away a variety of demons with a shotgun. That's what I want to do, and I want it to be as low effort and mindless as possible, and I don't want to be aggravated by how hard it is to beat this level and move on to the next one. There are things in my life that aggravate me that I can't do anything about. Why would I want the game that I'm playing, that I've chosen to play for fun, to aggravate me too?
Because that's how people like to engage with video games. If the game is well designed, it can be fun and engaging to play a game on the highest possible setting. This shouldn't be rocket science, but seeing as how you wanted to dictate what people play last year and shamed them for playing it, I guess your self-awareness is just a facade.
That insight did not come easily to me. When I was a kid, I was much more of a gamer. This was back in the olden days of 8-bit gaming consoles. I had an NES. I also had a Commodore 64 computer that I used primarily for games. I loved playing video games and devoted much of my free time to it, especially during the summer when I was out of school and my friends and I could visit each other and spend all day playing. Because back then, if you wanted to play multiplayer, the other players all had to be in the same room. I don't know how we all didn't catch COVID.
Because people didn't have a presidential candidate they desperately wanted out of office, and constantly scream about him being bigoted with flimsy evidence.
I have fond memories of those times, but you know what else I remember about my misspent youth as a video game player? How my Nintendo controllers would rattle when I shook them, because of all the times I flung them to the floor in frustration. Many of the games that provoked that childish reaction were among my favorites. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mega Man, assorted Castlevanias, Battletoads, goddamn motherfucking Battletoads. May the people who made you burn in hell. I liked playing all of those games, but you know what would have made me like them even more? If they weren't so fucking hard to beat that they made me whip the controller at the TV in repeated acts of impotent pre-adolescent rage.
Okay, admittedly, I have no idea why they made games so stupidly hard back then. Video games weren't seen as a medium for all ages back then, yet they decided to make games like Mega Man a furnace that forged boys into men.
It's no coincidence that my enjoyment of my favorite Nintendo games increased dramatically once they came out with the Game Genie, which was this cartridge that fit onto the end of the game cartridge, which you then inserted into the console, which allowed you to enter cheat codes that made the game super easy and, as a result, more fun.
You're looking at easiness as something that's just automatically good. There are games like Nerf Legends that are really easy, but incredibly shallow experiences because taking out enemies just isn't fun. Thinking on the fly to get past obstacles can be fun to do, and offer a deeper level of appreciation for the game's design once you're familiar with it. Sure, you might have fun with it being easy, but it's not vital that games should be easy to beat.
Am I saying every voluntary activity I engage in, every hobby I pursue needs to be as easy as possible? No, of course not. I exercise regularly, and part of exercising, if you stick with it long term, is occasionally increasing the difficulty of your routine, adjusting your goals to keep it challenging.
So, exercise is allowed to be challenging, but video games aren't? You better have a good explanation for this.
That's how you get better, by pushing yourself. It's not easy and it's not fun, but if you do it long enough and consistently enough, you see real benefits. You look better, you feel better, you have more energy. Hopefully you live longer and have fewer health problems along the way. In other words, there's a reason to challenge yourself and to force yourself to endure aggravation and misery. What's the reason for doing that with a video game? What's my benefit for playing a difficult game? I get angry and quit, and then I'm all annoyed for a while over nothing? Or I get angry and don't quit and eventually beat the game, and what? I get to say I beat the game? As long as it was all worth it, I guess.
First of all, I can't wait to see you be labeled as fatphobic for daring to bring up science. Secondly, video games can improve your hand-eye coordination, problem-solving skills, creativity, leadership skills, and even fix dyslexia. The fact that you were able to look up the benefits of exercise but you couldn't do the same for video games really shows your double standards.
I imagine some of you are thinking, shit, Steve, it sounds like you just suck at playing video games. Yes! That's it, exactly! I suck at playing video games, which is why I only enjoy the easy ones. Because when I play a video game, I'm not under the delusion that beating the game is an accomplishment, and that beating the game at a higher level of difficulty is therefore a more impressive accomplishment. It's not impressive, and it's not an accomplishment.
I guess we'll just ignore esports, Tetris tournaments, and people who get thousands of views on YouTube for playing games well, which can also earn you money.
It's an art form to be experienced and pondered and intellectually and emotionally stimulated by, or it's a pastime to be enjoyed. Either way, I don't play video games to be challenged on my technical skills. I don't play video games to give myself something else to fail at.
If you don't want to be challenged, that's fine, but it doesn't make other people wrong for wanting games to be challenging.
I play video games to have fun and feel good about myself for winning. I don't want it to be challenging. I want it to make me happy.
And what if challenge in video games makes people happy?
That's why I use cheat codes in Doom and Wolfenstein to make it easier to blow away demons and Nazis, and why, whenever I would play Grand Theft Auto Vice City back in the day, I almost always ignored whatever the mission was supposed to be and just ran around beating cops and businessmen with a baseball bat. Just good, clean fun. 5 or 6 years ago, in a fit of nostalgia, I bought this. A Raspberry Pi loaded with hundreds and hundreds of video games from the 1980s and 90s. It's got stuff originally released for Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Game Boy, N64, Sega Genesis, plus arcade games and games from a bunch of other consoles and formats. I don't play it very often, but I've got it if I get the itch. You know my favorite games to play on it? The ports of arcade games, because when you play a classic arcade game on the Raspberry Pi, like, say, X-Men or The Simpsons, both of which I shoved God only knows how many quarters into back in the early 90s, you simulate inserting a coin by just pressing the select button. Keep pressing the select button and you can pump that non-existent cabinet full of virtual quarters. And as long as you've got quarters to spend on extra lives, you can't die, and you don't have to start over. You can play until you win, and you never have to walk away frustrated and disappointed. That I get.
Like I said, it's fine if you want a game to be easy, but some people want a game to carry a skill requirement. A game shouldn't have to be easy like the title of your video implies. That's pretty much the end of this video. In conclusion, if you want a game to be easy, then you're within your right to play it that way, but understand that people like to be challenged because they believe it's more stimulating that way. Play what you want, how you want to, just as long as you're not hurting anyone else. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and that's all for now. Thanks for watching, and gotta zoom.